This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Teach Me Pokemon, the podcast. I'm your host, Corey, and along with my co-host, Jared, we're best friends, been playing Pokemon for a very long time.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Teach Me Pokemon podcast here on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, like us. If you're listening on podcasts, Spotify, Apple, give us a little shout out. Say Jared's awesome or something, because he's my co-host, Jared. He's here with us. Jared, doing okay?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great.
I noticed if you're watching on YouTube, you would notice Jared is repping one of our official sponsors, Pokemon or Pokechess, a vending machine near you. We haven't really talked about it much yet. We'll wait.
We'll be talking about that more. But
yeah.
You do need to throw up the new feature we have and talk a little bit about our day one sponsor. Stray Collections, man.
Stray Collections. Oh, look at that. Follow us on Instagram. Teach_me_Pokemon_podcast. Hashtag Teach Me Pokemon. But our sponsor, Stray Collections, with a Z, you see it right there now. And our promo code TEACH10, get 10% off. Go to his website. Stray is awesome. He has a lot of content, a lot of cards. He has a great YouTube channel. You may have seen me on an episode or two doing some pack openings, which is a lot of fun. So if you're looking for cards, you're getting ready for Toronto here in 2 weeks, or maybe Perth. Maybe he can mail you some cards down in Australia. Yeah.
Could be down in
Check
Perth,
him out.
man.
Down in Perth, baby. So there you go. I love our ticker. Wow.
It's beautiful.
We're big time.
Hey, but listen, before we get back down on to Perth, we have other tournaments, especially what transpired this weekend in where my people are from, Corey, and your people too, which is Germany. So we got to go back to Stuttgart. And Corey, I'm done. I think I'm done trying to predict what's going to happen in top eights. Like, what? I don't. Okay, we go back to North America, and we've got 2 Miraidons in the finals. Yeah. And now we come here to Stuttgart. We got 2 Charizards in the final. Is this 2023? Like, what is happening right now?
No, well, you got to give us flowers. We kind of called this. You remember we said they saw Miraidon. So what was Europe going to do? Let's counter it. And we talked about Dragonpolt, who snuck in here at 5th place with Mads Jensen. But then you called it. You said Charizard. That always has played really well into Miraidon, and therefore, is it surprising that we see this in the finals? The same 60, by the way, in the finals. Are you surprised by that?
I don't know. I a little am, because I'm looking through the statistics right now. At least in day 2, there wasn't a huge uptick in Miraidon, right?
No. Yeah.
Like what we saw was Regidrago come down a little bit. And really the biggest 2 trends that we saw was Raging Bolt just got kicked in the teeth in terms of its day 2 placement. And we see the advent, we'll talk a little bit about these, is this Klawf Terapagos deck is everywhere. It's online. It's at tournaments. And then I think we got to talk a little bit about Stall, Corey.
Do we though? It's fine. It's sitting there. Let's move on. I think we can talk about Stall. I think I want to make a point. You talked about Raging Bolt. I think that's both the surprise deck that just fell off, and then obviously the Klawf. 31 Klawfs in day 2 was just wild. So I think we got to talk about that. But I just think Raging Bolt. When we played Goldingo at Louisville, I loved the Raging Bolt matchup. Give me Raging Bolt. The only thing that made it hard was I couldn't get all the energies on my second turn. Well, now you fix that problem. So really Raging Bolt shouldn't as Goldingo, you shouldn't have problems with Raging Bolt. And I think Klawf plays well into Raging Bolt too. So now you have 2 decks that are starting to trend right in the top 10, right? Goldingo and Klawf. I think that's maybe why Raging Bolt starts to kind of decline, maybe a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's talk about this, and then I do want to get into some deck specifics, but lots of Regidrago again, but not the same performance that we saw last week. Like our top finishing Regidrago was in 11th, which is still really good. and then we start to see him speckled after there. But it's just so surprising to me that this deck has still stayed so strong from Worlds. Everyone is still talking about how it's the best deck, but then I don't know, like 2 decks or 1 deck of it in the top 16 of a major European tournament. It has always felt to me, and I know it has more mechanics than this, but if you can't get this thing going the same way with Lugia, it's not going to win.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you still know it's a strong deck, right? Like it's been winning tournaments. You have one of the best players on the planet ever decided to take this deck into Stuttgart there, as Tord finished 20th on Regidrago. But yeah, that's a little concerning when you have 40 in day 2. That was the top share of that deck in day 2, and none of them made top 8. Do you just think people, because they see it so much now, are just like getting comfortable with counterplays against it and things like that? What's your thought there?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of that deck is a lot of what we talked about in our education last week. You have to survey what they're doing. That's one of the decks that you have to know what's in their discard pile, what hasn't been played, what's in their deck list. If you're surveying that deck well, then you can make some strategic moves to get where you need to, especially if they're burning their V-Star ability early. That deck becomes very vulnerable to stall plays, to getting you to buy time, it not being able to hit the right numbers. And that's where I think some of this Klawf is coming in, is because, well, this deck is hitting in the right situations 280, 290, and can mess with the prize trading that this deck wants to accomplish.
Yeah, no, that's, you're 100% right. So maybe, who would have thought, Jared, that a crab could defeat a dragon? But that is what we're seeing. The little crab, like tick, 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 and a turtle, a crab and a turtle can outduel a dragon.
It can.
Well, that's why we love Pokemon.
Let's see that. When we look at the stats here, we had that deck finishing in 7th. Robin Scholes, fantastic player, very, very good player, our highest finish on. What makes this deck good? Why is this a deck that you need to know about, that you need to scrim against in order to be prepped to show up at a regional and perform well?
Well, I think probably for a while, it kind of had its little brief moment, right? Like when a lot of the poison cards came out. What was like the item, like
The
hot
spicy,
plate,
yeah,
spicy. They were burning, and it had a little moment there, but it felt a little gimmicky. I think the Klawf is, it hits obviously super strong with just needing a double colorless, right? 190 damage if it's affected by a special condition. It's very easy to do the poison with the Brute Bonnet. So I think the functionality of this deck is still there, but in my opinion, we've talked about that weakness game of all these things weak to fighting. There's a lot, and even these ancillary cards of Pheasantipity, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, weak to fighting. And then it clearly can one-shot. Rodham's weak to fighting, but it only has 190 HP. And then Luminion 170. Like all these supportive 2-prize Pokemon, Klawf just eats them up. And so I think that's good. And, I mean, it can hit going second. Like, it can go second, and it can knock out, if you get the right setup, it can knock out a 220 Pokemon. So I think with that, mixed in the fact that you can run it with Terapagos, has brought Klawf back. Because I think Terapagos players were just looking for a good partner.
Yes.
And this is the perfect partner.
I agree. I think this is the best iteration of an Area 0 deck that we've seen so far that doesn't run Dusknoir, right? This deck doesn't give a lick about Dusknoir. Mm-hmm. But when you're able to use your precious Trolley, a spec card, and get everything you need, get your Brute Bonnet, get extra Klawfs, you're still running Fan Rotom, you're still running your Hoot Hoot line. Like, this deck is just scary. Again, what's the weakness of this deck? Any deck can get a bad start, but it only runs 4 energies. If that's what I'm looking at. And you shut down DTEs, you start discarding things.
Yeah.
It's going to run into some problems, but it is strong. It is very popular online right now.
Yeah.
But you correct me if I'm wrong. If you think a Palkia variant with Dusknoir is stronger than this, if the earlier, Bouffalant, what Tord was running, I think this is the best iteration because it can change the prize map so much.
I think it's. I mean, you asked the question and it made me pause because I'm like, this is a great deck and it's a lot of fun. And clearly it did well. It had a lot of conversions into day 2. Is it better than Dusknoir Terrapagos? I think people just got bored. I think that deck is still so good. When you can still Dusknoir knock out the Klawf and you don't even have to attack, I mean, I don't know. And then you can hit him with the Palkia after that or the Terrapagos into another Terrapagos. I still kind of like that play, but I think the Electrode is fun in here because you have that leaf weakness, going up against Charizard. The Klawf can hit big numbers, so can Terrapagos, but it can't hit 330. The Electrode, you get Electrode start to play, and that can at least start to hit bigger numbers and be in the leaf weakness. But I don't know. I think the MVP of this deck is the trolley. And I think the trolley kind of was laughed at first. And I think is starting to make a run into that top 3 A specs with probably Prime Catcher still at the top. Unfair Stamp, maybe still there. I know the Crystal has something to say about that. But I think Precious Trolley, Jared, is probably right there in top 3.
And it does. And the other thing I'll say, closing up kind of our conversation about this deck, is there's so much room in this to throw great techs in there or great supportive Pokemon. You mentioned the Electrode, which we've seen historically in these type of Klawf decks, but you get to run the Latias. You get to run the Petrant EX. Some of them are even running this Robin's list, running the basic Petrant. And then you throw in the Iron Bundle, you throw in the Genesect, like, anytime you could give yourself options as a benefit, not like, oh, I'm trying to squeeze this in there. This deck is brutal to go up against, assuming that it can find its double colorlesses. And that's the other thing I'll say. A lot of them are running at least a 1 of Colress Tenacity. It's increasing its odds of both finding the one energy that it has in the one stadium that it needs to do what it does. It just seems like a perfect marriage of a lot of different pieces that came out in different sets.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the one Pokemon you didn't even mention was the Oranguru. And which would not. So, okay, how do I put this into my words here? So the Oranguru, good card, but it's 2 retreat. It never worked with the escape card. Can't be run. Well, now with the Latias, okay, now we can free retreat the basics. So you knock something out. We put the Oranguru out there, and then I can find any 2 tool cards I want. So now let's start peppering this thing with tool cards, which then allows me to get the ancient booster capsules to poison better, the Mochis to hit for bigger damage, the glasses, which is such a cool addition that does the 3 times for the weakness. So it's like, I think the Oranguru makes this deck awesome, but it wouldn't be possible without the Latias, which then also makes a lot of the other things better. So this is a team deck here, Jared. This isn't LeBron James right now. This is the Detroit Pistons from 2004. This is a team. This is a team effort here, and so I think that's why it's a fun deck, man. Kudos to Robin, world champ. Like, let's go.
It's very cool. I'm very excited to see how they keep iterating off of it. And it just does so much. Like, the Oranguru is going to help you sift. It's going to, like we've talked about a couple weeks ago, you start cutting cards out of your deck, you start thinning well, you're going to win. And this deck is sneaky good at thinning the things it doesn't want to be able to find what it needs to find. Well, let's keep looking around. I want to talk about a few more decks as we look at this tournament, and then I want to jump in looking forward to Perth. What else stood out to you as we kind of look at what was happening in day 2, whether it's a specific deck, a trend? What did you pick up on, Corey?
Like specifically in Stuttgart?
Yeah, for Stuttgart, yeah.
I mean, I think we kind of touched on it at the top, right? Highlighting like, okay, the Klawf had a great conversion rate. I was trying to find the stats. I heard it. It was like over 50%. Like of the Klawf players, if you played Klawf in day 1, like over 50% made day 2, which is just unreal. I was disappointed in Golden Go. I know we had some in top 8, so that's, you could say that was still a win there. But I was expecting this deck to really take another leap. Of course, we had to have a Gardevoir because that's legally binding at a regionals. There just always has to be a Gardevoir in there. I think it was fun to see Tord back in playing again because the game is just better when he is in it. You know, he had a round 11 match that basically he could have gone win-win and made top 8, and he ended up losing to the Terrapagos. So that was a tough one there for Tord. You know, you alluded to it. I'll say it. I know you were excited about Stahl. I think it had the field is lining up for this deck to go well. Let's just read off Robin's list real quick, if you will humor me here, Jared. I'm just going to look at the trainer cards. We'll go quick. 3 Arvins, 3 Boss, 1 Research, 1 Carmine, 1 Colress, 1 Iono, 4 Nest Ball, 3 Night Stretcher, 2 Ultra Ball, 2 Hisuian Hevel Ball. Then I'll come back to this. I'm going to skip some. 1 Precious Trolley, 1 Energy Lotto, 3 Boosters, 3 Mochis, 2 Seal Stones, 1 Super Effective Glasses, 4 Area Zeros, 2 Switch Cards. After those Switch Cards are done, it's GG, baby. So you have the Petrant EX that can still escape and do those things. But what dark Pokemon are you going to move into the active that is going to apply pressure? You're going to put 2 DCEs on the Pheasantipity, Jared? Is that what you're going to do to start it?
That would be foolish.
Yeah, go for it. So like, yes, the Petrant EX allows you to retreat or can pull your own stuff out, but it's just dark Pokemon, and there's not dark in this deck that can attack. So I mean, I think like Stahl just goes nom nom nom. Like I think it just wins. I think if you set it properly, it wins.
I 100% agree, because what the card that comes to mind that was a reason we saw Stahl tick down so much was Turo.
Yeah,
there was nothing that Stahl could do against Turo, and some of these bigger decks at the time, because of the way that the meta was facing, was running Turo because you weren't able to one shot, and that inadvertently hurt Stahl. They're like, oh great, yeah, Stahl, I'm ready for that anyway, just because I tech this for fighting a Charizard or fighting a Dragapult.
Yeah,
but yeah, the meta that control is the great balancer of the meta, because eventually it starts creeping up again, and then the text starts switching a little bit.
Snorlax is a huge Pokemon. How people don't miss it, how they forget about it, is beyond me. Yeah, and it really was Tord's fault in that regionals last year where he put that wild Charizard deck together with the Turos and the Pal Pads, and it was just like, oh my gosh, how do you do this? You go to our winner, and then the runner up, the Charizard Pidgeot does run a 1 Turo. But that's it. There's no Pal Pad. There's no switch cards or switches or even Prime Catcher, because you're running Unfair Stamp in these versions. So it's like you get stuck. Oh, I'm sorry. Second place did run 1 Pal Pad. My apologies. But there's no Prime Catcher. So again, these 2 decks, even at the top, are going to get stuck at some point against the Snorlax. So it's starting to sway. My worry, Jared, is a little too soon. I think this needed to wait until Toronto. And then if there was another regionals in January after that in the U.S., down in Texas somewhere, then Stahl could have been interesting. So, but it is
I
creeping.
still think it's worth running. I still think it's a good deck. I don't think we're going to see a tick down. I think Stahl players caught a bad card here and there. Still think it's very, very, very strong, and I think it's something that you just need to be prepared for if you're running in these top tables.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to go look at the top 5, top 5 decks in day 2, and Stahl's there at 4th. So it's like you have to acknowledge it, but it's never going to be enough for you to you're not going to put in 6 cards in your deck that help you against Stahl. So I think like any Stahl matchup, it gets tougher as the tournament goes on, and it's susceptible to bad starts. They can get Iono if you have a big hand, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. But that was, those are my takes from Stuttgart.
I love it. Well, let's prognosticate and talk forward as we look forward to, we have Perth this weekend coming up, and also a special event down in Bogota in Latin America.
Mm.
It doesn't feel, in my opinion, like the meta is shifting that hard right now. We're solidly in the confines of a new set. But based on regionalities and different trends, do you see a big shuffle coming forward, or is it just going to be more of the same?
Gosh, I really want to say big shuffle because that's more entertaining. Probably more of the same. I think let's look back. Okay, let's take a walk back. I tried to prep this for us. So last April, we had a regionals in Perth. Okay. Kywin, who's an incredible incredible player, but he's from Australia. He took this down. Brent Tonneson got third. Our boy Raul traveled down there. This was this year, but in April. Sorry, I might have said last year. It was this year. Raul got fifth. You know what they all were running, Jared? Charizard Pidgeot.
Sounds right. And there was no Dusknoir yet.
And there was no Dusknoir yet. It's probably going to be, I think a lot of these Australian players, they're tight. They're kind of, they don't have their IC anymore. Like, I feel like they kind of all roll together. So I think there's going to be a 60 that becomes really prominent, probably put together by Brent and Kywin's team. And I think a lot of people are going to run that. So I don't know if it's Charizard Pidgeot, but I think it's going to be multiples of one deck are going to find its way here. And Jared, Perth, guess how many people played last year? Do you have it pulled up? Do you know?
No, I would say.
How many? Take a guess.
It was not big. 400 or 500?
257. Yeah. So it's tough to even really get a big sample size, but I think it'll be the same stuff. I don't think anything new. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not expecting something different. The trends that I'm seeing are, I think Goldingo is going to keep getting more and more plays. It seems like we talked about Klawf with Terapagos is going to be strong. That seems to be like the newest spice that's out there. I'm not predicting a big swing. I still think even in a field of 250 something, Regidrago will be the most played day 1 and day 2 deck. So I think we're on the same roller coaster, Mr. Dickman.
Yeah, same roller coaster. Brent, he posted on Twitter. He didn't make day 2. He didn't have a very good tournament here in Stuttgart. So I imagine he comes back with a vengeance in Perth. Going to Bogota, right? That's the next one that's happening.
Yes.
A special event. Guess how many players played in that last year?
80. You
are spot on. 76. Not a lot. That was May 14th of 2023. There may have been another one in there. Maybe I missed it, but 76 players. Not great. The winner though, Andrew Hedrick. He is a name. So, that man probably could have won it even if there were 2,000 players in it.
Sure.
But, he was running Lost Box. I think the last time, this tournament's probably going to be small yet again. And I think we could see some spice here. I don't know if it's going to be groundbreaking stuff, but I think when you have such a small field, it's hard to kind of predict, I think, what kind of decks you see, because we might get some that creep into top 8 that probably wouldn't have had any business being there.
No, I think you're on. I think you're dead on. Like, a smaller sample size is right. Anything can happen. And then you're not really allowed to take the principles that you see in them and then apply them to a 1,700, 2,000 person tournament. Same thing with what happens in Japan. You got to take it with a grain of salt. You got to see the differences between sets. So it's exciting that we still have Pokemon every weekend. Depending on your time zone, set your clock so that you can see Perth. I totally forgot about the difference with Stuttgart this past week and woke up and it was round 5. And I was like, oh, no, I totally forgot.
What have I done?
What have I done? So exciting stuff. It's just going to keep happening. They're going to continue announcing more and more regionals for Europe, for Latin America, for NA. Yeah. Stay up to date with it.
Can I say something? I boo-booed. So there was another Bogota. It was in May of this year, 2024. May 12th. This is before Worlds. It was a bigger tournament, 130 players. So forgive me. Don't be mad at me. But guess what won?
Charizard.
Stall took it down.
Stall took it.
So, I don't know if that's any foreshadowing, but
it's fun. There are leagues. Some of the bigger leagues in the U.S. are that big.
That's
80,
true.
130
80.
people.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah. Yep.
might as well report some league standings as well.
Yeah. I'll go find a league cup here real quick. But yeah. Anyway, good
Well,
stuff.
we're gonna, as we transition, Corey, throw that ticker back up one more time as
Oh,
we
let's do
transition
it.
into the second part of our
Oh,
show.
look at that. Oh,
Follow us on Instagram. Remember, shout outs to Stray Collections. But as we transition here into the second part of our show, we got a lot happening in the digital space with the TCG that we need to talk about. So for a while now, and we're going to start with talking about Pokemon Trading Card Game Live, the PvP has been stagnant. Just in my opinion, not even worth playing a whole lot unless you're just trying to practice. But in terms of like an internal motivation to keep playing once you've reached Arceus status,
yeah.
what are we doing? Then we get an update notice yesterday, and there is cause to get back onto live. Corey, why don't you tell them what's happening?
All right, everybody. I got the mic a little closer to me. It's not perfect yet. I think this would have been the perfect. You wouldn't have seen me today. We wouldn't have recorded if they had implemented a ladder or a leaderboard. No leaderboard yet, but once you get to that Arceus level and you're at 550 whatever points and you can't climb anymore, and it's kind of like, why do I even play this? There continues to be more with the ELO that gets added. So how ELO works, you have 1,500, I have 1,500. We're going to match together. If you win, I'm going to get a good climb because you have a good ELO. If you're above me in ELO and I beat you, I'm going to get a bigger climb. But if you have a really low ELO and I have a really high one and I beat you, you don't progress as much. And the idea there is always to try to level the playing field. That's the point of an ELO. And we're going to get that now. And apparently, at least it'll show you what yours is and what your opponent's is. That's what they said. So I think when you're on the login screen, maybe, and that first little, and then it shows the characters, I think it'll show so you can at least get an idea. Like ideally, they need to be around your level. That's the idea. But I think it's going to show it to you so you can get hyped up. If
I like that. I like that because you get to Arceus now, and it's like you could still run into a very mediocre to low player who's just been grinding. The other thing I really like is that they are reintroducing the bonus from a multiple streak win is going to get you climbing higher, which I like that because let the people who are the best get up there quicker. We don't need to dawdle around in this. We know what our end game is here. We want to get to this higher place. But I'm excited about this because for a lot of people trying to get better that necessarily don't have the communal aspect, this is their best way to practice. And now that you can achieve a higher ELO and play better opponents, that is good news for better practice.
Yeah, it totally is. You just need a reason, like to just play, and it's fine. And you're practicing for regionals or cups, or whatever you're doing. But sometimes it is a drag, and you need to have a carrot in front of you. I do. I need a carrot, and this is a big carrot. And this is going to be awesome that this is added. And again, it shows they're still slow moving. Pokemon has more they need to do here, but they are caring more about the competitive player, right? They have the casual thing down. They know Pokemon as a brand is great. I think they're slowly making it more benefits to the competitive side of it. So
I love it. It's good to see changes. Again, you can find Corey online. We'll add this to the bottom here, but if you're looking for a battle, he's teach me _Pokemon, I believe.
I think it's that. It might be teach _me _Pokemon.
We'll get it. We'll get it down.
I can't remember. Yeah.
But I'm old school 88 if you're looking for an easier battle.
Old school.
If you're looking for something, or if you hate me and you've played me before and I, instead of just knocking you out, decided to play all 11 energy in my Goldingo deck on my last turn instead of just knocking you out. That was me trolling away on you.
I'm more thinking of like if you were the guy, like you go first, then instantly concede. It's like, oh, that was probably Jared.
That was probably
Jared. Just by Jared. You didn't want to play. Bad start.
I'm not playing. This won't happen in the tournament. But I want to transition now to talking about Pocket.
Yeah.
Pocket has swept the nation. I think it is a huge success, and it's doing what Pokemon should do, which is enticing the collector as well as enticing the competitor. I think it's even doing a better job of enticing the competitor which is something that you and I talked about, because hopefully this becomes a feeder pool for playing a more complex game. But let's talk about it for a few minutes. Like, how do you feel about playing competitively online right now with Pocket? Where do you see it going? And ultimately, do you think one day we'll wake up and see it at a regional?
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, well, okay. What do I like it? Is
Do
that
you
the
like,
first
in its
question?
current state, how do you feel about it right now? We'll start there.
You know what I like about it is it allowed our friend group, and if you've listened to past episodes of this, Jared and I, obviously you hear us every week, and we still play competitively. But there was a group of us in college, and we're still all really close. That they kind of played. They played, but they never played like we played. Pocket brought them back into it.
Yes.
And that was really cool because they both, speaking to one friend in particular, I was talking to him, he probably would get into Pokemon Live or the TCG, but it's just, he doesn't know where to start anymore. There's so many cards and it's just daunting. We get it. But Pocket felt like, oh, we're all starting from ground zero. And it's a more simplified version. So actually our two friends that don't do Pokemon Live or the TCG, they're way into it.
Way more than us. Way ahead of us.
I mean, Cyclone 7, I think, is ranked 6th in the world right now on Pocket. So Cyclone 7, look him up. He'll be complaining about Misty supporters and Moltres coins. But yeah, I mean, he's got to be top 10 for sure. I mean, the amount of games that guy's won. Is it Cyclone, right?
It is
Cyclone,
yes.
Yeah, Cyclone. So look him up. He's incredible at Pocket. But
so much shade. Shade.
But as far as the competitive scene goes, there will 1000% be a competitive scene at a regionals, Jared. That's just what Pokemon does. Yeah, I don't want to get roasted for this. I love all the other games. They're so fun. It's cool to see the energy from VG, to see Unite teams up there looking like League of Legends. And then, you got Pokken kind of still doing its thing, I think. Pokemon Go, which, I've had my heyday in Pokemon Go. If you had told me back then, Jared, Pokemon Go was going to be at regionals, I would be the 7-time champion at this point, but I didn't know that. Because I'm like, how can this game be at a regional? Those games can be in the competitive scene. Pocket is going to for sure find its way. Now, do you think, and this is probably too much, but Pokemon can make a lot of money doing this, would you see them make packs that mirror Pocket, and then the tournaments are played like live with Pocket cards?
Yeah.
Do you think that would ever be a thing?
I could see that happening. But it feels like they would have done that already. It feels like Pokemon was searching for something that was purely digital, that they can keep purely digital, to, a la Hearthstone, something that is driving revenue there. And it's, trust me, if you guys haven't looked up the statistics of what Pokemon is making off of Pocket, it's wild how much is going into that. But that's a conversation for another time. I don't think they will. I do think there will be an interesting crossover at some times where some of the cards get converted into actual cards, but I think the competition will always stay digital, because I just don't think they want to interfere with what's going on and detract people away from this.
Yeah, you're right. Like the Pokemon Go set that came out with Pokestops and Snorlax and all the amazing things. Yeah, you're okay. So there would be like a special set that's Pocket.
Yes.
That has like Misty's in it. Maybe it doesn't do exactly what it does. But would that be broken?
That Misty's would be crazy right now, and people would absolutely play it, especially if you could play 4 copies of it. For those of you that don't know, who haven't messed around with, Misty is a supporter card in the game that just says flip a coin until you get tails. For every single one of those, attach a water energy. It would have to change for the real life, because also in Pocket, energies are, you get to attach one a turn from a pool. It's not a card. So yes, I think I sent a screenshot to my friends where someone flipped 7 or 8 heads in a row on a Misty, and it's like, why are we playing this game? Yeah. Why are we playing this game? But that's what I'll speak to real quick before we go into education, is the only downside of the game right now is it's too flippy.
Yeah.
It's so many of the cards are too flippy. I understand it. It's set 1. I'm not going to like say it's doomsday, but as they start pulling more and more mechanics from the traditional TCG, it will get better. But yes, there are some cards in there right now that I would love. I would love that Pidgeot. Just an auto gust.
Sure.
Every single turn.
Yeah.
Something like that. I know we have Iron Bundle, but just on any given turn to say, yep, gust, cool, do it, fine.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But I imagine you're right. I think it'll be more like a go set from Pocket that we get eventually.
The card that would translate the best would be Gengar. Because Gengar just shuts down abilities. And the abilities in Pocket.
I thought it was supporters.
Oh, is it supporters?
I think it's supporters.
Is it supporters? That's lame. Well, that's not bad either, though.
No.
Let's be real. That's not terrible. So I'd probably still run Gengar. But yeah, this game even has like 1,200 player tournaments on the weekend. Like go to Limitless, the page, sign up. They're free to play. And you can start to see like, hey, how am I doing against other real live people? So
yeah,
maybe I'll bring my Marowak deck and we'll see how it goes.
I will bring my Marowak deck. But I think those numbers show what people appreciate about it is it's TCG simplified.
Yeah.
Right. And simple versions of more complex games are often very enjoyable for people. So yeah, find wherever you fit in, man. But I agree with you. I do think we'll eventually see this at regionals as something you can enter into.
100%. I just think that's where Pokemon's going. They want like 12 games that people can participate in at a regionals. I think TCG, it would take something massive to take that down as the number one Pokemon game, but it doesn't mean they're not going to keep adding other games around it.
Sure.
As they build up the brand.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree with that. Well, let's move on now to our education moment. And just keeping in the theme of what we've just talked about, we have to talk about what digital practice means for your in-person experience. So we've talked about this a couple of times before, but I think it's especially important now with the changes that we're seeing on live, because I imagine that's going to start getting a little more competitive. But Corey, you told a great story one time where you showed up to a tournament and shuffling was such a foreign concept for you because you had been grinding so hard on live.
Yeah. That was, I think that was San Antonio last year. And I, go down there, our buddy Logan, friend of the pod. I literally like parked, went in, checked in, walked into the venue, found Logan. He like literally, I don't know if I stopped walking. He handed me Gardevoir. I walked to the table and I sat down and they were like, all right, and then that's where I lost that card for a second. But like, I remember looking at my hand and being like, oh, that's what a Curlia looks like in my hand. Like it took easily 3 rounds for me to like get comfortable with like shuffling and work to do it. And I know it's weird.
Okay, I'm going to throw something at you. Get better and learn in a lot. Live is a better place to. Versus necessarily. Most part is better. I say that is the stuff people are bringing to tournaments.
You hit the nail on the head. I think that's really interesting. The practice versus getting. How did you say that?
Learning
the game
versus practice. Yeah,
I think playing on live or online on your phone, on your tablet, your computer, it can help you understand the sequencing part of the game flawlessly because that part doesn't change. The statistics, the numbers, the probabilities, none of that changes unless you think you're a weird roller of the dice or something, which you have to do physically. But like that is exactly the same. So learning your deck, about what's the best move to make in that moment is exactly the same as it is live. So I think that can be practiced, and then learning matchups, how my deck interacts with this deck, and how many, we're talking about stall earlier, playing into Klawf. How many switch cards do they have, and when are they going to play them, and stuff like that. Do that on live and grind it. But if you don't play in front of a real human being, that actually practicing the game, checking your deck for what's prized, making sure you're going through the motions and not forgetting something, not doing an ability twice, not playing two supporters, which I've done before. Like the things that the game prevents you from doing, you don't have that in real life. And those turn into 2 prize penalties. Or game losses. So you have to get that in-person practice. But I think you can learn how your deck works and how the game works just playing live.
Yes.
Or online. You know what I mean? When I say live, I mean online.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And it's just different because I honestly think the best players do dabble a little bit online. We see Azul do it. I know he's doing some of that for fun, some of that for viewership, whatever. But what I've learned is the best players have these teams, these player groups, and I think that they are getting incrementally better faster from their in-person experiences versus what's happening online, because playing randos online, it's not the same as, Andrew Hedrick sitting across from Rahul. I don't know if those people know each other or play together, and then testing the best 5 meta decks against each other. Like, you will learn a lot more from something like that. So this is also just a reminder to get to a league. Go try a league. Identify who the best players are at that league. Play them. Challenge them to a game. Watch them. If you get done early and they're sitting at the top tables, go to them. League is about community, and you should be able to pick a better player's brain. I know who the best players are at my league. I get excited to play them afterwards, to have a little bit of a conversation, and then even during, saying, I would have done that, but they did this and that was better. Why did they do that? It's that aspect that I think is going to grow more. So I agree. If you need to practice your deck, your sequencing against what I would call a mediocre field of players, that is live more often than not. That is live. That is what it is. So you just have to know that if you're dominant there, you are probably ready to have an opportunity to be dominant in TCG in real. It's not going to just translate, right? If you are mediocre online, you are probably more often than not mediocre in real life. I'm just telling it real, man. I'm just telling it real because I want people to get better. I don't want to paint live as this incredibly where all the best players are hanging out all the time and you can get better. You can get better in certain respects of the game. Don't expect to build a full toolkit around you. Where you show up in an in-person tournament, you're successful.
Yeah, I think you will. If you're only playing live, even if you're really good, the part where you will falter, you will. And I'm not even just saying, well, maybe you will, is the time management of a best of 3. And I think that was just using my experience from that San Antonio regionals, is I went in and it even hurt me more because I was playing the slowest deck that I could have picked was Gardevoir. And I think I had 4 ties, and it was just like miserable. And it just takes you out of the whole. I think at one point I was 2-1-4, and it was like, that's terrible. Like at the standard, I want to make day 2. I want to progress. And so if you're not playing in person, you're probably not going to manage the clock very well, because you're realizing how long it actually takes to do motions, shuffle, cut, play energy, supporters, all the things that, again, the game just does for you. And there's not really a time limit. There is a time limit, but unless you're playing against me on stall, there's not really a time limit. And I guarantee you, if you go up against teach_me_Pokemon and I'm on stall, I will play the entire match. So if you think you will outlast me and the timer, you are solely mistaken. I will play it till the bitter end. So if I have more time left than you, just quit. Don't waste our time, because
oh my gosh,
I've done that where it's like pass after 4 seconds, pass after 4. Okay, I'll sit here for an hour and a half. I don't care. I know. So just know that, but know that does not help in real life Pokemon. There's no benefit gained by doing that, except for just being a whatever person.
Petty.
So,
Petty is the word you're looking for.
Petty. We'll go with petty behind door number 2. So yeah, but great advice. We have these tools, use them, play on live, play your friends. The ladder is going to get more competitive, do that. But man, find a good league and get some real practice in. Be good.
Absolutely. And just play in real life. It's so much fun. It's just good to practice the things that you'll practice at a tournament, if getting better at a tournament is what your ultimate goal is.
Sure.
But that is going to wrap us up. Just as a quick recap, we talked a little bit about what happened in Stuttgart. We're looking forward to what is happening in Latin America and Bogota, and also in Australia, in Perth this weekend. We have Toronto coming up the week after that. Things are happening in Pokemon Digital. Don't look at it as a bad thing. Just know what it is properly for. Ladder in live, tournaments for Pocket, and as always, some education, just letting you know how you can keep getting better, which is our ultimate goal here at Teach Me Pokemon.
It is. And Jared, before you do the tagline and send us out, can I do one more thing?
Please do it.
Look at our ticker. If you're listening, you can't see this right now, so you probably should go to our YouTube channel and maybe subscribe and show us some love and check out the ticker.
Check it out, man. It's the real deal, and it's only going to keep getting better and better. Let's see where we're at. Just a quick sub look real quick to see where we're at. We're getting close to 1,500.
Come on, baby.
We are inching our way there to get close to 1,500. So
where are we at? Where are we at? We're grinding.
Currently we're sitting at 1460. 1460, okay. Corey.
All right. 1460. We hit a little snack. That means people just got to come on board, baby. Just come ride the train with the Pokemon, the Teach Me Pokemon train. Leaving the station. Yep. Cool.
Get it.
Well, hey, for Corey and for Jared, we'll catch you later.
You can find us at roguemedianetwork.com. Teach Me Pokemon Podcast. Come and dive with us.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.